I've never Googled myself until today. Yeah, yeah. I sounded very successful. Half of what was written was actually inaccurate, but it still sounded really good. But I'm an author of somewhere between 12 and 14 books, depending upon what?
Was that the Google version?
Yeah, depending upon which Google site you're at. And I've reached either somewhere between 1 million and 300 million people, depending upon which Google site you're at. I'm somewhere between 42 and 69. And they generally mention that I've been on Oprah a bunch of times. And let's see, that's pretty much what they say. So welcome back, or welcome newcomers. And what I want to talk about tonight is my personal favorite tools, the ones I use pretty much every day now to experience more consciousness and awareness. In previous class, I gave you some, hopefully theoretical foundations. I find that of some use, but not much. I'll do a little bit more. But mostly what I'm interested in is teaching people a lot of techniques, several techniques, and their job, should they decide to accept it, is to find the ones that work best for them. And I find that most people are incredibly busy and distracted. Therefore, it's useful if you can teach techniques that take less than 3 minutes before they have a profound effect. And eventually, if you do certain methods, you can get them done, or they can be powerful in really 5 seconds or less. And those are my favorite techniques, as I will be teaching 2 or 3 of those 5-second techniques today. Now, you probably might be a little bit skeptical that that's possible, but in reality, experiencing awareness is really just a shift in focus. And there are levels to that shift in focus, ranging from, we've all heard of this term like the witness. And one level of that is you have an intellectual witness. You kind of like go, there's Jonathan doing his thing, or something like that. That's more of like a thought intellectual witness, and that's closer to awareness than being actively you going about your story. Last week we talked a lot about how we get caught up in our stories and we think we're our stories. But an intellectual witness is maybe a first step. A second step is what I might call an emotional witness. An emotional witness is where you actually can detach or disidentify with your emotions. And that's very useful because our emotions are all over the place, as are our thoughts. And we often identify with our thoughts, or we identify with our emotions, neither of which we choose. So it'd be like taking a random person who's crazy and saying, yeah, that's me. Because why should you identify with your thoughts and emotions? They're not essentially you. You're not choosing them. If you could choose them, you would probably choose lots of nice thoughts and have nothing but the emotion of bliss, love, and peace. But we have no control generally over our emotions. Last week I taught a method that does allow you to release negative emotions very, very quickly and very effectively, where you actually can start to have some control over your emotional life. But most people, they have virtually none, other than that they can distract themselves. That's why the average American watches 4.5 hours of TV a day and spends more time watching TV than any other activity in their life except for sleep, because they want to distract from their negative emotions. So if you can learn to disidentify from your negative emotions, that's very helpful, because as you have more and more disidentification from, say, thoughts and emotions, what you enter is into deeper levels of awareness. Now, after you can disidentify a little bit from your negative emotions, the next layer down might be called peace and presence. That's always good to feel. The next layer down, a lot of people stop there because they don't know that something else is available or they don't know how to get there. The next level down is to experience usually either bliss or love or what I call unity consciousness, where you realize we are all part of one energy. I like this word energy because it doesn't have religious connotations, and yet, and physicists will say, yes, it's all energy. In fact, here's my, this is a thing with 2 electrodes, a little ball, and when you see it, because I am a circuit, it creates an energy. Now, Tara, can you come up here for a moment? I'm going to touch one part of this ball and hold hands with you, and you touch with your finger the other electrode.
Oh, now we are one.
We are one. I always knew it. And you can do that with a whole group because we all basically are made of energy and we conduct energy. So that is what we are made of. Now, if you could take the average male and turn them into pure energy, I looked this up on Google today.
You spent 4.5 hours on Google.
No, I actually spent, it was pretty easy to figure it out. So if you could take our body and turn it into pure energy, it would equal approximately 225,000 Hiroshima nuclear bombs. Wow. You could destroy every city on Earth with a nuclear bomb with a population over 1,000. 225,000 nuclear Hiroshima bombs. If you could, because E, energy, equals mass, in my case 150 pounds, times the speed of light squared. The speed of light squared is a ridiculously high number. That's how much energy is in one person. Now, that's a lot of condensed infinity into a small space. And human beings have a capacity to open up to that infinity. Unfortunately, most human beings are like a stopped up sewer. Not much is going in and not much is going out. So what I like to teach is methods. Now, meditation is the normal way of doing this. And most people have learned, as I mentioned in the first class, methods that are about 2,500 years old that they work to some extent, just like crawling is a form of meditation or a form of transportation. But if you had a choice between crawling and taking a helicopter to San Francisco, pretty much everybody would choose a helicopter. So, as times change, the technology for awakening to this infinity has gotten better. You may have to start with just intellectual witnessing, emotional detachment. And this detachment, detachment might not be a good word for it. I would call it disidentification. When you disidentify, the actual word yoga means to disunite. In ancient Sanskrit, it means to disunite. Disunite your identity with materiality so that you can identify with spirit, or my definition of the word for spirit is awareness. So how one does that, lots of methods, you probably know a few, but most people don't know the ones that actually work the best. So my job is to give you several methods. Your job is to try them out and see which ones really seem to work for you quite well. A little bit of awareness is a lot like a nuclear bomb. Once you actually drop to the awareness of feeling deep peace, bliss, or unity consciousness, it affects a lot of your life, even if you're not trying to affect every other part of your life. So that's what I encourage people to learn how to do, because I think that's what will create not just inner peace, but enough of these little ants walking on earth called us experiencing the nuclear bomb energy of pure awareness would create actually world peace. And that's my opinion. So that's a little bit of the history. I want to do a little guided meditation now. And it'll be a little bit of a story, a little bit of a remembrance. It'll be like a 5-minute guided meditation that might work for you, might not, but it's worth a try, and let's see how it goes. So most people, when they do guided meditations, they like to close their eyes, and if you want to do that, that's good. I might even play some background sounds during this. And the background sounds are coming from a helper called a miracle eye cube. And what they do is they actually help to change people's brain waves so that you're more receptive to higher states of consciousness. Now, the sounds are not pleasant, strangely enough. And they'll be played really low, but somehow they do seem to have this effect. And once again, technologies, both inner technologies like meditation techniques and outer technologies like the Miracle Eye Cube, are getting a lot better very, very quickly. So we'll see if it does anything for you while we're here. Hopefully I'll play it in the background for a while. So just take a couple of slow, deep breaths. Allow yourself to relax. And you know, it's interesting when we do things like meditate, what we like about it is that it helps to quiet our mind. When we, I don't know, watch a fire and enjoy the fire, it helps to quiet our mind. When we go to the beach and look at the waves, it helps to quiet our mind. When we take a walk in nature, you might think of the last time you were at the beach or the mountains taking a walk, and how it felt to have a quiet mind. You might think of the last time you were really present with a friend or lover, how something relaxes within you and led to that quiet mind and heart. You could think back to a time when you were in a cathedral or a church or a synagogue, and you were enjoying the magnificence of the building and the congregation. And that led to a quiet mind. So what is a quiet mind? What is that? A quiet mind is like a doorway. It's a doorway to being present with what is, rather than being lost in thoughts, stories, and feelings. A quiet mind is a portal to being able to feel our heart and our body in new ways. A quiet mind is a doorway to being open to awareness, where our senses are fully open. We hear sounds without judging them. We feel sensations and being open to them. A quiet mind allows us to go beyond the protectiveness of our ego and into simple beingness. Humans are called human beings for a reason, because there's two parts to us. The parts that are doing and the part that is a being. Being only happens with a quiet mind, an open heart, and resting in a deeper part of yourself, which I call present time awareness. Now, awareness is somewhat flexible. You can make it smaller, like zooming in on a camera. So I'd like you to zoom in on the feeling of your big left toe. And just focus on the exact sensations in this second of your big left toe. If it helps to wiggle it, you're welcome to do that. And try to get not just into your big left toe, but into the tip of your big left toe. And put as much of your attention, like a telephoto lens, on the sensations on the tip of your big left toe. So awareness can contract and get very focused. But the type of awareness that leads to peace is actually completely zoomed out and totally open. So let's contrast that by zooming out to feel all of your body. As many of the sensations of your body as you can. Your legs, your butt, your back, your neck, your face, all the sensations. And then zoom out more to include things like the field of silence that sounds come out of, including my voice. You're in a field, a container of silence, and sounds come out of that and can be heard inside you. As you open up more, you can become aware of the field of combination of light and darkness that you see with your eyes closed. So aware of the sensations, the sounds, the half-light. You become aware of any contraction in your body and allow that to soften. And then you can zoom out even more to become aware and disidentified with the thoughts that are going through your head, like clouds through a sky. Now this isn't a doing. At some point, something in you has to just let go, surrender, and relax. And all these things, sensations, sounds, thoughts, float by. And what they float by is a field of awareness. In fact, you are in a container of awareness. That is what allows all these experiences to be noted. Awareness is vast and spacious and open and relaxed. It only exists in the now. And there's nothing you need do to be relaxed into the ocean of awareness, because that is who you are. When you don't get lost in ego or stories or contract your awareness to focus on something. And as you relax into the field of awareness, you may become aware of more a feeling of peace or bliss or love or even just an impersonal openness that was always there, except you may have been looking in a different direction. Because awareness is always in the background. You cannot not be aware. And as you zoom out in this way, relaxing attention and surrendering it, you may even become aware of other forces or feelings that you normally don't feel. So shift your attention from anything you might be focusing on to what is aware. Shift your attention to what is awareness. You cannot grasp awareness. It only exists in this exact present moment. But it is a thing that all human beings have that always allows them to experience sensations, thoughts, feelings, etc. As best you can, allow this force, this thing, to be there as much as possible. It's a little bit of an acquired taste. Once you become kind of aware of awareness, it's easier to become aware of it the next time. You cannot grasp it, but you can let go into it because it is like an ocean, and on the top of the ocean there are waves which we call me. But those waves soon disappear into an ocean of awareness where all those waves unite us into one being, one energy, one ocean of awareness. So when you're ready, take your time and slowly come back and very, very slowly open your eyes, and try to open your eyes from this feeling of some connection to the ocean of awareness as you look out into a world of time and space and forms. So as you look out into a world of time, space, and forms. But in here, it's really a world that's timeless. It's always now. Awareness is always now. It has no form. It has no shape. It has no time. So one of the methods I want to talk about tonight has been around for a while. Not many people know about it. Some of you might. It's called the Headless Way. A man named Douglas Harding wrote some books about it. And it involves a series of experiments that help a person to identify the obvious. That awareness is always here, and there are ways to trip over it that allow you to experience it very quickly. Now, I'm going to give you a handout tonight that has a list of these experiments and their website, which is free. But I thought I would try some of these experiments with you. And in my experience, about half the people get it really quickly, and half people go, I don't know what the fuck he's talking about. If you're one of the latter group, then work on other methods. Or go to the website, which is headless.org, and try out their experiments, of which they have 23. But hopefully you'll get a sense of what I'm talking about, even if just for a flash. And with practice, you can get back to that place very quickly. The method, once you have experienced it, generally takes about 2 seconds to work. So, let me describe some of the experiments and we'll try them. One experiment is take your finger and point it to any object in the room other than your body. And notice that that object has color, it has form, there's a boundary around it somewhere. It probably has texture. Now point the finger to your foot. And notice what you're pointing to also has color and a shape. It has a size, a texture. Now move your foot. You notice you can move it. Then I want you to point to your chest. Notice that this also has color and form. It has movement. It has a boundary around it. Now take your finger and point it to here. And notice, ask yourself, what is this pointing to? It's pointing to something that ultimately does not have a form. You can't see your own head unless you look in a mirror. But what you are looking out of has no form or shape. It doesn't move. It, I don't know, it's in a way formless. And if you take your hands like this, what you see is that your hands, as they go back, they disappear into this void that you are looking out of. And then you could do this and the hands appear out of the void. So if you look as if for the first time, from your point of view, what it looks like is that these hands are coming out of a void or going back into a void that, quote, you are looking out of. It's like a picture window. And we see this window, I'm looking. And in this window, what I see, check it out for yourself, is there's no face here. There are arms coming out of a void. There's a chest coming out of this infinite void. There's legs coming out of it. And in a way, you could say that this is the field of awareness, that you are looking almost through glasses from an infinite void into a three-dimensional world. And there is no face here. Which is actually our experience directly in life, because ego is a made-up concept. Me is a made-up concept. In this moment, there is no me. There is an awareness looking out of a void into a three-dimensional world. That's actually what we see. And then we add on 25 layers. And that is God in its infinite goodness is saying, look, if you just look, you are looking out, your body is manifesting out of this thing called an infinite void, and there is no face, there is no ego, there is no... Now there are thoughts coming out of this infinite void as well. And there are sensations that you feel out of this infinite void. So how do you, some of you may have had a flash of that, and as I keep talking about it and we do different experiments, maybe you will get that sense that right now I'm listening to a guy, I'm like back here, listening to a guy lecture. He's really good too. I can't wait to hear what he has to say. So there's this guy, there's these hands coming out of this void and a voice coming out of this void lecturing about the infinite void. That's my experience. Now, then I can throw on the word I, but that's a made-up concept. I could throw in my story, which is I didn't sleep a lot last night and I just drove in and woe is me. But my experience is I'm watching this body coming out of an infinite void and hearing sounds. That's very close to pure awareness. Now, there are other experiments you can do. For example, tighten your foot. Just take your foot and tighten it somehow. Now, notice that your foot is tight, but that doesn't affect the void here. You can have a tight foot, and this is completely relaxed right now. And you can move your foot. There's movement there. There's no movement here. My view is always the same. This one. So contrasting the world of 3D materiality and the world of stillness that we are in can help you to experience that you are part of this void. Here's another experiment you can do. From my view, I see 3 walls. Kind of this wall over here, and that wall over there, and then kind of something over here. Even if there's not walls, my view is kind of like this. What's on this wall? This wall is like a void. It's like a void, the plane in which I see a body come out of. And it's always manifesting stuff. But it's always still from my point of view. So you can experience your 3 walls, this one view, and realize that the 4th wall is the wall of, I like to call it the friendly eye, because from our point of view, you've been told that you have 2 eyes, but that's not your experience. Your experience is that you have 1 eye, you have 1 view. Out of this 1 view, you see stuff manifest. And as you look very directly at this 1 view and realize that you don't have a face, you can start to identify with this wall, which is a wall of voidness, awareness, call it what you want. So another thing I can do is look at somebody in the room. Just look at each other. Could be anybody. You're not even going to speak to each other. Just look at them. And as you look at somebody, and hopefully you're looking at each other, realize that you are face to no face. You don't have a face, but they do. And if you'd look at their point of view, from your point of view, they're looking at a void. They're looking at a wall of awareness that part of your body is coming out of, if that makes sense. So if Carol is looking at me, for a moment Carol's looking at me, looks to me like she's looking at a painting of a body coming out of here with arms, which is the same view I have. That reminds me of it. Now, her experience might be a little bit different, but when people look at me, I see that they are looking at a, not Jonathan with a face, but looks to me like she's looking at a like a space here of which things are coming out of. That may sound trippy. Once you have the experience, though, it's hard to forget. So nowadays, when most people look at me, I'm aware that they're looking, you could call it at awareness, you could call it God, you could call it infinite capacity, you could call it a void. And as I kind of take their point of view and I see myself not so much as Jonathan with his story, but I see it just as this space, it helps me to experience awareness. Now, I'm trying a lot of different ways of doing this, and one or more of them may work for you, and one or more of them may not. This one I like. You make a fist. Tightness here, relaxedness here. You can point out one finger each way. There's shape and form and color out here and movement. There's no shape, no form, no color at what this is pointing to. There's a boundary around out here. This has no clear boundary. It's awareness. Your mind might be doing one of three things. Completely confused, short-circuiting, or you may have a taste of what it's like to disidentify with your body and enter into the realm of awareness. All of them are fine. But as people practice these things and these experiments that you can get at headless.org, you start to relax into that, what I call the fourth wall. It's not that hard because it's actually a relaxation of everything you've ever been taught to do. Because your actual experience is that there are arms and chest and legs coming out of a void with you not having any face. That is your actual experience. Everything else is made up. You is made up. Your face is made up. The fact that your thoughts you think are you is made up. So that can be useful. Out here is a world of time. Here, there's not a world of time. It's always now. So those are some stretches that can be useful. You'll see I may have mentioned a couple more. You can pay attention to sounds. Now, sounds, as I said in the meditation, really come out of a field of awareness, a field of silence. So listen to sounds for a moment. Where do you hear them? You actually hear sounds in you. You made up that the sounds are out there, but you hear them in you. And what is you? You are a field of awareness. Now, in order to be aware of these thoughts and feelings and sensations, there has to be a container that allows all those things to register. What is that container? That container is awareness. It's always in the background. And as you talk about it, it's kind of like, have you ever talked to a friend about, that restaurant you ate at that was so great? He said, oh yeah, man, Maria's, the food there, the salsa is incredible. Yeah, have you ever tried the burrito there? And soon you're talking about, and then you're hungry, right? Well, awareness is kind of the same way. The more you talk about it, the more it becomes apparent. Now, because it's not a thing, you cannot grasp it. Awareness is more like a mirror that reflects everything. It doesn't grab onto the things that it's reflecting. It just mirrors it, allows it to be acknowledged. So when I drive, I like to use methods that work even when I drive or walk. When I walk around, actually, in some ways, I am still, and it looks like the scenery is going by that way and entering into a void. When you drive, in reality, it looks like you are completely still. And scenery is going by and then disappearing into a void. So if you didn't have a story about what's happening, your experience is that you are always part of this looking out of this looking glass in a way, and things just go by. It's like a video game. And that's a fun way to be. So when you're walking or driving, or when somebody's looking into this, what appears to you to be this open space, you have an easy time of remembering that you are awareness. Now, repeated 2-second bursts like this eventually alter your consciousness, if you do it enough, to a point where you feel like God put on some clothes and is walking around. Because you don't have any identification with your body, and you feel not just bliss and love, but you feel connected to all the energy of existence. This is what enlightened folks experience all the time. And I experience about 10 minutes a day outside meditation. But there are levels. And you want to be able to recognize the levels. You want to recognize, oh, I'm just starting to be a little bit of a witness. And I didn't identify with that feeling that just went through me. And then I feel kind of peaceful. And then further and further, there have been times that for me it feels like I'm on large amounts of LSD. I try not to drive a car when I feel like I'm God. So that can be fun. Any questions on some of these headless experiments? Yeah, over there. Say it loud.
I'm not really sure how to put it, but the only time I really feel full is like if I move my eyes, and it seems like that's when like the connection of the nervous system of my eyes or whatever. I can feel my arm, and then if I want to know that there's another part of this, I move my eyes, or I either look at it or I move my eyes, and I can start feeling other parts of me.
That sounds great. You know, really, you've been given a laboratory here to play with. There is one best technique actually in the world, and that's the technique that works for you. So if looking cross-eyed with your tongue out while stomping your foot helps you to experience pure awareness, that's what you should do as much as possible. So these are general guidelines of what have worked for people, but there are subtleties which really come down to you experimenting. And if that works for you, then experiment with it more. You know, the somehow doing something with your eyes. Some people find that looking at their peripheral vision, and you can try this right now. Try to be aware of and see where it ends. You can see, like I can see my hands, both hands now. And they find that if they look through peripheral vision and do things with their hands, it helps them to feel this sense that something's coming out of a void, including what they see of their body, and that they're part of that void, and helps them to disidentify or change their relationship with their body. So that can be fun. You had a question.
Well, I had trouble. I guess I have a skeptical mind, but because I can imagine my face and I can feel the sensations in my face, so I had a hard time, therefore, thinking that it wasn't there.
Okay, can you imagine that you're one with God?
Of course.
Is it real to you?
Yes.
Good, then you're done.
Oh, okay. But I don't use.
Just do that all the time then.
I don't use the word God though.
Okay, but I wonder how, if I take a gun and point at you and say you have 5 seconds to live, might you get a little nervous?
It depends.
Most people would. Most people would. So you probably are less identified with everything, which I'll call God, than you think you are. You have an imagination about it. You also have an imagination that your head is here, but you're taking it as very real.
I can feel it.
I'm not saying it's not there.
Oh, okay.
I'm not saying it's not there. I'm saying in your actual visual experience, moment to moment, it is not.
That's true.
That's God's way of helping you to realize that you are part of the void.
Right.
It's a visual reminder in that case.
Okay.
It's not that you don't have a head, it's that you can't see it.
Right.
Your actual direct experience is that there is a body part, there are various body parts coming out of a void.
That's spooky.
It's spooky until you have the experience of how it feels to be connected to awareness, and then it's peaceful, and then it's blissful, and then it's ecstatic, and then it's amazing. You know, you can go through the layers. But one of the layers can be a little freaky because you're letting go of your normal identity. You know, people are attached to this bundle of really crude thoughts and emotions that are randomly going through us and saying, I'm not going to let go of that at all. I'm going to grab on to this bundle of negative emotions and random thoughts and call that me. And if you try and take it away from me, that's weird. No, that would be nice, actually, if you could let that go a little bit. But most people do go through I call it a wall of resistance. The first week we actually talked about this wall that people go through, like they don't want to let that go. And it often feels a little bit fearful or a little bit altered. And that's your mind going, boo. You can get through that if you want. Yeah.
So I have a comment about what you said, and Douglas Harding was a friend of mine.
Oh, good.
And one thing I really loved that he had us do was to pretend we were a baby and there was just space.
Uh-huh.
And then there isn't a knowledge of all the stories and who you are because it's just empty awareness and consciousness.
Mhm.
So sometimes when I'm all tense or have my stories, I'll just do this thing and I go, you know, kind of like, I just become that.
Great.
Yeah.
That's a method that you took the basics of his idea and found a specific way to make it real for you.
Yeah.
And that's really what this woman did as well. And that's what you want to play with. Mm-hmm. Because I believe that, think of it that you have a combination lock on your heart. And your job, most people, it's a 4-digit combination. And most people try 2 things. 0, 0, 0, 0. That didn't work. 1, 1, 1, 1. That didn't work. Well, this spirituality thing is a bunch of crap. I tried 2 things and it didn't open the combination. Well, you may have to try, 50, 100 things with just changing one number a little bit. And boom! And suddenly you go, everybody, the combination is 1, 2, 7, 3, everybody. takes you immediately to God. And then Carol tries it and goes, that didn't work at all. What are you talking about? Okay. Yeah.
On the one hand, I could get a lot of what you were saying, and it's something that I've experienced repeatedly since I was a little kid.
Yeah.
On the other hand, I don't know if this is.
I would say just keep that one hand.
Okay.
Yeah, you don't need the other hand. Yeah, but go on.
Well, I was going to say I think this might be missing the point, but I just, and this is probably my mind just kind of going to town, but I couldn't help but thinking about this is a very visually oriented exercise. So how would it manifest? How would it work if it were dominated by a different sense?
Uh-huh. Yeah, great question. The way I presented it was primarily visual, although a sensational one based on your senses and the exact feeling of your senses is close your eyes for a moment. Now, if you didn't have a concept of body or chair, what actually are you feeling? What sensations are you actually sensing in this moment? And where? It's almost all based on our concepts, but if you just took away all your concepts, you'd see, well, I feel something somewhere. Maybe you'd say, I feel some warmth somewhere where I might use the label my butt used to be, but I don't know about butt, so I feel this interesting sensation there. And can't tell how far away, but what my feet are, I feel something. I feel some kind of sensation. But it wouldn't look like a body if you just actually sensed what was happening in this moment. It would involve a sensation here, one there somewhere. It would be all part of this 3D matrix with some sensations in different places and they move around. That would be a way to experience headlessness with sensations, and then you can do it with sound. You can imagine that sounds are coming out of this infinite field of silence that is actually, you are in that infinite field of silence. You're not listening to sounds. Sounds are in you. That would be a way of taking it into the field of sounds and sensations. Now, those that might have worked for you, that might not have, but those are additional ways of doing that. Is that helpful?
Yeah.
Great. Any other questions? Great questions, great comments? Yeah.
How do you use these practices to be less sensitive to the world? Like just, the state of the world. If you already feel that sense of unity, you understand that, you're all connected. And that makes you kind of sad sometimes to see the way it manifests, in the world. How does this help? Does practice just help it somehow?
Well, for those who couldn't hear, she's saying, if you're already sensitive to the fact that we're all unified and you're already pretty sensitive, how does this help you or how can you avoid being overwhelmed? First of all, the idea that we're all unified or that we're all part of God is, on a scale of 1 to 100, worth about 1/1,000,000th of 1. It has almost no use at all. It's just another concept. So it might point people in the right direction and might get them to use something that allows them to have the experience, but a lot of people have wonderful concepts and they're assholes. People think all kinds of things. It's just another thought. It's what I call BS, a belief system. Now, the experience of unity consciousness is a completely different thing. And in the actual experience, what you experience is that there's almost like no preference for what passes through you, because you are a completely open channel. It's only when we close down to certain things that we stop up the sewer pipes and we experience suffering. So if you literally can open to everything without saying, yeah, you I want, sadness, no thank you, I want this happiness, that creates a stuckness in the flow, which then turns off the awareness. Now, some people are more sensitive than others, and that can be a help to some extent, but it's also a hindrance, because then you don't want to open up more, because your experience of openness is more sadness, more hurt than most people. So most of those people then try and close down. What you want to do is open to, and then focus on the background of what is aware of that, so that there's no stuckness moment to moment. When they do MRIs of people, enlightened people, one of the things they found is that every moment they are completely open and they do not bring the last moment to this moment. So if you take somebody like you or I, and you hear, and randomly every 30 seconds or so, there's this loud, shrill sound, we start thinking, when's the next one? I need to close down. Oh, shoot, and it's going to happen any moment like this. And then when it happens, we think, okay, we prepared for it. We already are a little bit closed, so it doesn't bother us as much. You put an enlightened person in that MRI, every time they hear the shrill sound, it's for the first time, and there's no resistance, and then there's no holding on. Then they don't think about it, and they're back to peace, an eighth of a second after it's done. So it's really, when you're sensitive, you have to learn to let it flow through you and be aware of what is resisting, what is even aware of all that's going on, and work on the disidentification or the grasping, pushing away that we get lost in. We're always resisting something. So another tool you can use is, could I let go of resisting this? Which is, were you here last week? I went into that a lot with the Sedona method. Could I let go of resisting this? Because once you can, I think the 8th patriarch of Zen said something like, one to me is loss and gain, one to me is pleasure, pain. He's not resisting anything. When you don't resist anything, you naturally relax back into the field of awareness. Great questions. Any other questions, comments? Okay. How many people enjoyed that method or found that they had some interesting experience with it? Raise your hand. Good. Okay. Now, earlier I did the method which I called zooming. Zooming in, zooming out. You zoomed into your big toe. I was watching your toe. You had a fly on your right toe, big toe. And I was talking about the left. I was wondering what that was like, I'm watching the fly was just around her right big toe over and over again.
I kept trying to think of my left big toe.
Yeah. Right. So you zoom in, and that's what we do. We contract our awareness into a very small space, and then zoom out to include everything, which is a way of not resisting anything, which then allows you to open to the field of awareness more easily. How many people found that method useful or interesting? Raise your hand. Okay, good. I mentioned this before, but the first time you do any method is the time that you usually have the least experience and it's the hardest. Just like the first time you play tennis, you do not become Roger Federer, you are mostly trying to figure out what this game is about. With practice, you get better. If you can have an experience the first time, then think of what it would be like if you practiced it 100 times. I want to talk about one more method tonight, unless you have any burning questions, or maybe two more methods. One of these methods I talked about briefly, but I didn't give you the method. And that is, if you're talking about food, I was once in Italy and they served me this pizza that was so good that while I was there, I didn't travel through Italy because I didn't want to leave this pizza joint. I didn't know anything could taste that good. It was like an explosion of flavor that literally sent chills through my body. We don't need to go to Florence. This place this is all I need, It was just amazing, and I didn't know anything could taste that good. Or, I really like Haagen-Dazs ice cream. Think of how good that is. If you're sensitive at all and you're not doing 4 things while eating Haagen-Dazs or whatever your favorite ice cream is, it's like, wow, that's incredible what it can do. That's the power when we use our words to describe something, it can evoke an experience. Well, the same is true when we use our words to describe awareness. So I'm going to do a demonstration with my friend Tara, and we're going to take turns describing awareness using a very simple thing. Saying awareness is, and then you describe it as best you can. There are no right or wrong descriptions, but the more you can describe the experience that you're having of awareness or seeing of awareness in this moment, the more you will likely fall into the field of awareness. Now I do this with friends now. I say, well, let's I call it awareness chess, where this person makes a move, I make a move, we each fill in that blank. We do it for half an hour. Generally now we don't do it for more than half an hour because at half an hour we're so formless and so high that we can't literally talk anymore. I've done this with people while driving where you don't quite go into that same state because it would be dangerous. But the 7 or 8 people that I've done this to that have been willing to do it for half an hour generally said that's equal to a good 3 or 4 hits of LSD. And you're normal. You're just sitting there saying the words awareness is. That's how available it is. It's just waiting for you to describe it. Now, that's not everybody's experience. That's only about 80% of people's experience, usually within 2 or 3 times that they do it. I found that 50% of people will have some experience within 5 minutes of doing that. And the more you tune to it, the more sensitive you become to it. So the first time I did it, took an hour before I go, oh yeah, I feel kind of high now. And then it became half an hour. And now if I do it for 5 minutes, it's like, wow, I feel really high. And I'm not sure I can talk anymore. So you become sensitized to it, just like, if you've ever, what would be an example? You're looking, when you buy a car. I recently bought a Honda CR-V. And when I was thinking of buying a Honda CR-V, and once I just got it, for about 2 weeks, it seemed like almost every car on the road was a Honda CR-V. I just became very sensitized to Honda CR-Vs. And the same way you get like a taste for it, and you just realize, wait, that's always around if I'm just not so busy being me. If I'm not so busy doing my story, it is there. It is the background. It allows you to experience things, so it can't go away unless you sleep. So Tara has never done this before, so her descriptions are going to be really shitty. No, I'm kidding. No, I'm joking with you. But at first, her descriptions will probably be based less on her exact experience she's having right now.
Yeah.
And if she deepens into it, you'll kind of know it kind of sounds like this. So when
Sorry to rehearse.
yeah, I know, I'm sure, right. And this is the problem with this. is that you can't rehearse. If you rehearse it, it's totally worthless, you know?
Just to sound good.
Right. Yeah. You can't fool yourself. So, but feel free to say first your imagined descriptions.
Yeah.
And I will try to speak from my direct experience, which it's not a fast thing. It's not like I go awarenesses, you go awarenesses. You know, it's not. There's often space.
Okay.
You know, sometimes people might wait 30 seconds before they go, okay, what is awareness in this moment? And so we'll play it for 3 or 4 minutes, and then I'm going to give everybody a try to do it for their first time. Okay? I'll start. And if it helps you to close your eyes, that's fine. If it doesn't, I usually do it with my eyes open, but either way is fine. Awareness is what allows me to be conscious of the sensations and thoughts and feelings floating by from a place of detachment. And then when I'm done, I just say done. And when somebody else, when I'm speaking, you're trying to tune into that view of awareness, that description, giving yourself space, and when it feels appropriate, you can complete that sentence.
Awareness is like riding through a tunnel of light while there's a buzzing sensation.
Good.
Done.
Awareness is a vast spaciousness of which this thing I call me seems to arise out of. Done.
Awareness is like flames fanning out with the green color.
Done?
Done.
Okay. Awareness is a peaceful ocean of vibrations that is always in the present moment, in the background of experience, that like a screen allows a movie to be projected onto it. Done. So that's a good start. And you could do this with 2 people, you can do it with 3 people. What we're going to do for about 5 minutes, you probably won't have long enough to experience this technique, although you might, is in groups of 3. If that doesn't work, 2 is also okay. You'll try this out. And you're trying to point your words towards whatever this mysterious thing is that is hard to describe. You can describe it in terms of feelings or functions or what it seems to be doing now. You don't have to worry, am I getting the exact right words? You know, by throwing words out, you're trying to find a target. And you only find a target by throwing something. And then you say, yeah, that seemed to hit it, or that didn't seem to hit it. But over time, the target becomes very much defined. And soon you just kind of, you know, as I do this, I might start off, awareness is something that's there that I'm not experiencing right now, you know? And within half an hour awareness is everything that flows through all of the universe, and this individual identity is one with it. As I said, you go kind of down the elevator into the ocean. But it's something that I have found actually has a momentum to it and has a field. You know, it's like if you acknowledge somebody, they like glow brighter. If I'm saying how wonderful tar is over and over, and you're saying how wonderful it is, you know, soon tar is like shining, you know?
The truth
So-
has been spoken.
Yes, exactly. So in 5 minutes you might not experience it, but in a while you probably would, and it is very interesting to do. It's a little bit hard to do on your own. You know, Jesus said when 2 or more are gathered, something magical happens, and I have found that to be the case. Any questions before you give this your first try?
Is this in the headless?
Say it a little louder.
Is this one of the headless exercises?
This is not one of the headless exercises. This is a different technique. But I found that, like the headless exercise, once you kind of get it and you define it, it gets easier and easier. So nowadays, you know, if I'm stuck, I might say 3 awarenesses is. Now in the handout that I'm going to give all of you tonight, I suggest that, I'm not suggesting you do this now, because I think you're in a slightly higher vibration. But when I start off, I often do something like this. Awareness is noticing. Like awareness is noticing that there's a pain in my back. Awareness is noticing that I'm upset over some of the news today. Awareness is noticing that this woman is nodding her head. And then after I do about 3 or 4 of those, then I go into awarenesses. Once again, you start at the most superficial layer, you go down, down, down. But for now, I want you to skip the awarenesses noticing and go straight to awarenesses. So find preferably around 2 people, take turns, and slowly do that, and I'll tell you when to stop. I'd be interested in hearing anybody's experience with that. Anybody want to share what that was like for them? Yeah.
I loved it.
You loved it.
I loved it.
Great. Then
Of everything we've done, this is my favorite.
it's very powerful. Yeah.
Yeah. 'Cause
Good.
it allowed me to, try to experience it, and then I guess I'm a word person.
Uh-huh.
So it made it real.
Yeah, it's taking something that is formless and giving it, in a way, a form.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Great. Anybody else? You seem to like it?
Yeah, me too. It was almost, it felt somewhat like prayer. You know, it just led from one to another. It was like guided.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Very positive. I just had a smile.
yeah. Now realize you did it for 6 minutes the first time. I don't know, I mean, you've heard my words, but it's hard, let me record this if I can. Oops. That didn't work. Hold on 1 second, I want to see. If I get this right. Huh. I think I just erased the entire thing. That's a shame. Yeah. Luckily you have it. Okay. because I don't. Anyways, awareness is bummed. But you experienced it for 6 minutes the first time, and it does develop a momentum, so the longer you do it, the more effective it is, definitely. Almost everybody finds that to be the case. Yeah. Yeah, you. Yeah. With the beard, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh,
I thought you raised your hand.
no, I didn't.
Okay, okay.
Not that I know aware of thinking.
Right. I'm sorry. Anybody else? Yeah.
In the beginning, it felt like a fairly intellectual exercise.
Uh-huh.
Coming more from the head, and it was. I'd be interested to see what it's like after, I don't know, half an hour or 20 minutes.
Yeah, yeah.
I started to get a little bit of a sense that it was getting a little bit deeper.
Yeah.
Since we were wrapping up.
I've done it for 2 hours, and it was cosmic. I mean, we were having descriptions that luckily I recorded some of them because they were like poetic descriptions of God. You know, it was really, really something. Yeah.
It seemed like the words aren't really it, but they're kind of a door into experiencing it.
Yeah.
Especially, hearing it from other people and yourself, and it just sort of gets very expansive, which is sort of surprising because words are so intellectual,
Yeah, no, it is surprising. You actually can't tell, some of the techniques I know, the first time I heard them, I said, that sounds horrible. Like, one, I don't want to do it, and it'd be a worthless thing to do. And then I do it, and I go, my God, that was incredible, So you never really know. So this is actually our third and last class. At some time in the future, I might do more of these. I'm actually going away for a couple weeks. And I have everybody's email, and I can let you know if and when I do that. I'm kind of doing an experiment of not charging for anything and seeing what awareness wants me to do as best as I can decipher that. And I can tell you a couple other things that might be of interest to you. I do have books, which some of them are good. This one's interesting. This one's called The Technology of Joy, the 101 Best Apps, Gadgets, Tools, and Supplements for Feeling More Delight. You can get those at my website, Finding Happiness, if you're interested in that. Also, I can recommend, nowadays with all the news and all the distractions, we need all the help we can get. So I'm always trying different stuff. This is something I like. It's called Qualia. It's a supplement you take. It's called a nootropic or a cognitive enhancer. And the interesting thing about Qualia is that it tends to give you more energy, alertness, and even a slight sense of joy, which I find helps with my meditations. So that the downside, it's kind of like they took everything that was healthy for your human brain and put it all in one thing. So it's very healthy for you. The downside is it's relatively expensive. It's about somewhere between $2 and $4 a day. But I get a lot more done. I'm enjoying life more. So, for $3 a day, I go, that's a deal. But other people, don't have my resources. So I brought a few samples. What?
And so when you stop it, do you go boing?
Yeah, it's like drop.
I go back to my normal thing, which, yeah. And what I find, because I get to speak to a lot of people, about 70% of people really, really like it a lot. About 10% actually dislike it. And about 20% don't feel anything.
What's in it?
42 different ingredients. If you're interested in trying it, I brought 5 samples here. But you can email me that you want to try it, and I would try and get you a sample if you are really interested in giving it a shot.
Because you'll know in one try.
Most people do. Yeah, most people do. If you have a bunch of money and you want to try like a full month, you can get a discount by going to neurohacker.com. That's their website. Neurohacker.com.
What's it called again, John?
It's called Qualia. Qualia. So it's neurohacker.com, and then if you want a 15% discount, you put /finding happiness, one word, and that'll take you to a page where if you use my page, you get 15% discount. I actually had no financial stake in this. Now they give me 5% of all the orders because so many people were coming to them. They were making so much money. They said, we want to make you a partner. So most people seem to really like it. It helps.
Does this help somebody who has depression?
Well, you know, the reality of almost any answer I would give to almost any question is different people are different.
Yeah.
So I have found there are people who take this and they feel a lot better. And I found people who are depressed, they said that made me feel worse, you know, so you just don't know. But in general, if you're optimizing brain function and body function, it does help.
But you probably shouldn't be smoking marijuana while you're taking this.
Once again, I don't have enough experience with that in particular to say yes or no. So yeah, I can't really say anything. So I will have a few here. As I said, you're welcome to email me. Do you know my email address?
You sent us one.
It's on your sheets. So that's that announcement. See if I had any other announcement. One is to just practice. I do plan to send you a video link to each of the 3 lectures. You are even welcome to share them with friends. I think consciousness is pretty much a group sport. So I have tried to surround myself with people who have similar activities, and there are a lot of organizations and people where you can find those people. Yeah.
So back to the exercise. I found myself paying attention to sensations and describing awareness from the place of noticing, and I kind of felt like I went to the place where I go to in meditation sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
It's like energy, it's like spaciousness and energy and darkness and light. Like,
Yeah.
And I come away, because I have a lot of physical pain that I deal with, but I come away from that feeling like more relaxed.
Yeah.
Body. Like,
Good.
and I was just wondering if that's a common.
That is a common thing. I do know people who experience chronic pain, and this is one of their best pain management tools, because part of pain is our resistance to it, and part of pain is our whole baggage of interpretation of it. And if you can relax your resistance and just be with the sensations as they keep changing, a lot of people experience that it can reduce the pain very significantly. So play with it and see what it does for you. It can be, one tool in your tool chest, and can be very helpful that way. Yeah.
Do you take this qualia with food? Is it a powder? Is it
Well, since you're interested, let me give it to you. It actually says it's 3 pills. The 3 pills have the equivalent of half a cup of coffee of caffeine in it. That's the only thing that could be a little bit unhealthy. 3 pills has about 60 milligrams. I'm pretty sensitive, so I only take 2 of them.
I would take one.
Okay, that's fine too. And you take a half hour before eating.
Oh, in
Okay.
the morning.
Yeah.
And it lasts all day? You don't-
Well, you'll see how long it lasts with you. If you take 1 pill, it probably won't last as long as if you take 3 pills. But the technology, things keep getting better, and not just your iPhone's getting better, but these inner technologies and inner supplements are getting better. And we have now the average person sees 780 advertisements per day. You go back 100 years, it was 3. You know, we are needing a different fuel just to handle all the stimulation that we get. So I think if you can do something and take it in 30 seconds that allows you to be more aware, more effective, I think that's worth exploring as long as it doesn't harm your body. Yeah.
Is the quality described in your book? Because I got you.
No, this, once again, I would have, except it's only been invented, it's only been on the market 9 months.
Okay,
And the book is a year old.
a lot of supplements that you have.
Yeah, yeah, I do have a lot of them in there. They tend not to work quite as well, but they also tend to be about 1/5 the price. So I do recommend a dozen different ones in there. Now, this company started 9 months ago. It's now worth $65 million. Because you find something that works, that's healthy, that makes you feel great and aware, you know, that's what people want. And a lot of meditators have said that it has greatly improved their meditation. Yeah.
You mentioned for the awareness is exercise, that you did that once for a couple of hours and you recorded it. Is this something you can get a contact high from?
Yeah, I call that spiritual pornography. You can, though we agreed with the people that we weren't going to let it out because it can get pretty intense. And everybody's at one point was sobbing. You know, it can get very vulnerable. And once again, a lot of awareness in a short period of time definitely has effect. So we don't let those recordings out to people who weren't part of the group. But good question. Any other questions on anything we've covered? Or any question you have about anything? I'll bullshit some answer if you want. Yeah.
It's not a question, but does this exercise, the awareness exercise, I found that it felt like it was developing my intuition, like I was getting into my intuition and just in better touch with it.
Mm-hmm.
I almost felt like I could feel like what you were thinking and Nancy was thinking in our group.
Some people have had that experience of feeling like it makes them more psychic or more intuitive, and some people not. You know, you don't realize it, but people really are very specific and unique. And even what intuition is to you is different than what it is to this person and what it is to this person. So, sounds like an interesting experience. And I'd say, you know, tell me how it goes if you do it a bunch and see what happens. Great. Yeah.
Then you mentioned that there's groups of people that are interested in exploring this more. Are there any that are well established that you would recommend?
Yeah, it's a great question. For one thing, you can go to the headless.org site, and sometimes the guy has free Zoom calls. There is, let me see, there are, you can subscribe to various teachers. You know, there's Muji, there's a guy named Rupert Spira. I took a course of which some of these methods are from called the Finder's Course. If you ever want to take that course, feel free to email me. The problem with the Finder's Course is that it's $2,000 and it requires about 2 hours per day for 4 months.
That's a lot.
It is a lot. But on the plus side, they say that 70% of the people who take it have a dramatic change of consciousness that lasts for years. And I find that it did change my consciousness to a point that the people who know me generally say, well, that seems different, you know. So I can get people a small discount to that. But one of the things I'm enjoying about the Finder's course is once you finish it, you become part of an organization where all those people know each other and we talk to each other constantly. Because a lot of people are having really far experiences and they want to connect, like, hey, what do you do when you enter into formless bliss while you're walking down the street? That I have a new problem. So, but that's one way. But there are. Let me give you the name of a website that I have no association with, but has some interesting resources, and I'm finding it's all free and pretty interesting, and that's liberationunleashed.com. Once again, I have no connection with them, but they will actually give you a mentor to help you to experience pure awareness, and they have some interesting downloads that can be useful. Liberation Unleashed. Yeah.
I took LSD once a long time ago when it was legal, and I immediately saw the universe and everything in my awareness was this energy, and so-called objects were just concentrations of energy.
Yeah.
And that stuck with me for decades, and it's been very useful.
Good.
And also that time, I was in a car, and I had the thing where the car was still kind of like a magic carpet, and the world, or the stuff was just coming at me.
Uh-huh.
The car wasn't moving.
Right.
much.
Something like the headless thing we talked about.
Yeah, it was the
Oh, but let me just put you on hold for one. Let me put you on hold for 1 second, because some people might have to leave because we're after 9. We do have a donation bowl. The donations go to the American Red Cross Hurricane Relief. So if you have extra money and you're willing to donate to them, the bowl's out there. Okay, go on.
So, that taking that stuff, turned me on to many of the experiences we're trying to get to.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, so would you recommend it for people?
Would I recommend LSD for people?
Yeah.
Well, once again, everything is a tool, and your job is to find the tools that work for you. Now, some tools are more risky than other tools. But LSD has been a great tool for a lot of people to open them up to consciousness. There's also ecstasy. There's also marijuana. There's also 5-MeO-DMT. There's a lot of different things. And if you are going to take those things, make sure that you have a good source and that you have a supportive person or environment to help you. I used to take LSD about once a year and found it very useful. I took it about 6 months ago. I said, this isn't useful for me anymore. So you can grow out of a tool. One time baseball cards brought you great joy. They probably don't now, So a lot of people have found that drugs can give them a forevision of something higher. And then if they use that forevision in a good way, then they hopefully find a less risky tool to practice on a daily basis. Yeah.
What would be a microdose of LSD?
I have an hour-long lecture on microdosing on LSD. You can just put in Jonathan Robinson microdosing at YouTube, and you'll get the hour-long thing, which I go into how to do it, the dosages, and then microdosing in the YouTube search box, and there'll be an hour-long lecture, which I think is quite good and will give you everything you need to know.
Including sources of where to get pure LSD.
No. Can't give you that. Yeah. But the more your friends are into consciousness, that won't be a problem, I'll tell you. They'll be like, which people do I know, Yeah.
Try that stuff.
Okay. There you go. Ask and it shall be given. And say one last question, because I know some people are leaving. Yeah.
I didn't get the sheet for tonight.
Okay. Got plenty of those. Oh, you mean that you've been here, you've had that, but we'll give you that.
If you do have an extra sample, I'd love to have
An extra what?
sample.
I do. There you go.
Or are you done?
I think that's all I have for tonight. Yeah, that's all I have. Anyways, it's been really fun. Thank you for your attention. I hope I will see if I'm inclined to do more of this. How many people would even be interested in that? Raise your hand. So, okay, well, we might form our own club. We'll see. But thank you very much. You are welcome to email me if I can be of service to you, and go out and become God conscious, okay? As a personal favor to me, okay? Thank you very much. Okay.